right. Let's see. Okay, so great. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this recording. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Nina Kong-Surtees. I'm the founder and chief art advisor of Smart Advisory. And I found this company with a mission to empower and elevate the role of artists. Because I come from a family of artists and being in the art world for over 15 years, I definitely can relate to the challenges of being an artist. So despite the stigma around the myth of the starving artist, I always admired the career path and the journey of the artist because they have a great vision that helps us to see the world differently and transforming us to the world in a different places and shift our perspective through their imaginations. So this is one of the reasons I created Sundays at the Studio, where I want to amplify the voice and the visibility behind the work and feature the artists who have achieved their success. So this is a perfect way to introduce Lauren Richardson, an artist and entrepreneur. She's the founder of a jewelry company called Radiance Romance that aims to defy conventionality and break down the barriers of everyday through grace and elegance, which also aligns with my mission. And yeah, so Lauren's work is very sculptural, as you can see, and she will go through the process, which I'm really excited to see. And she also, through her design, she also explores dichotomy between the feminine and masculine and industrial materials and nature through transforming solid metal into more of a fluid natural forms. So yeah, well, thank you so much, Lauren, for joining me. Of course. So yeah, but first of all, like, can you tell us about yourself and how you started your journey as an artist?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Baltimore, and I'm in Brooklyn, New York now, in my studio. I just don't really remember wanting to be anything other than an artist. I was always like into painting and drawing. My mom sewed, so we would sew together and quilt together. My mom tells this story. She has this painting in her bedroom, which I made when I was 4. And I was at like some little art class that she, took me to. And I guess the teacher was like really, really impressed with the painting, so much so that clearly my mom has hung it up. I guess she like talked about the color, how I selected the colors and the composition and like putting everything together. And I like filled the whole page, which I used to work in a preschool and I used to teach preschoolers art. So you've seen the way most 4-year-olds paint. It's a lot of like, making it brown and like a blob in the middle. So I guess like I was always destined to be an artist. And I got into jewelry making in 10th grade. There was an elective to take a jewelry class, and I just thought it sounded really interesting. So I convinced my 2 best friends to take it with me. And we actually, all of us really loved it, even though the 2 of them are not artists now. But we were like jewelry nerds, and we would go into the studio at lunch or in our free periods and make jewelry. And that was just, I've pretty much been a jeweler ever since. I went on to study it at the Maryland Institute College of Art. I just really liked working with metal and making jewelry. So yeah.
No, that's great. I love the story, and I think a lot of people, a lot of times we often find out like our passion, like especially when it comes to art, right? And we were encouraged by our parents to pursue art, right? Because like they notice some kind of creativity and talent behind it. But it's so interesting because when we think of jewelry, right, like we don't normally associate with fine art necessarily,
Yeah.
right? But there have been some artists in the fine art world had design jewelry in addition to creating what's defined as fine art, right? Like it's very labeled and
Yeah.
but like Calder, Picasso, Man Ray, and Dali, even Louise Nevelson, she created jewelry on the side. But like they're known for their core body of work. But it's so interesting that like you're actually incorporating your art skills and creating something more functional form.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, tell us a little bit about the challenges of being artist, right? And also challenges of being an entrepreneur, because you're an entrepreneur as well as an artist. So how do you balance those two worlds together? And
Yeah.
challenges.
Oh gosh, balance would probably be one of the biggest challenges. Um, I think when I was starting my business, I was like, oh, I get to do what I love every day. And then I realized that a lot of my days are spent, marketing, emailing, fixing up my website, reaching out to contacts, talking to customers, tracking, figuring out how to price my work, which is so
It's
hard.
always been a challenge. That's the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah. Um, and so trying to balance those is really hard. And also transitioning from one world to another is really hard. So I still feel like in a lot of ways I'm trying to figure out what works for me, because like when I'm in a studio mindset, I'm not in a like marketing mindset.
Right.
When I'm in a marketing mindset, it's hard to like go into the studio. So like figuring out how to like break down my time so I can like transition into both of those like brain powers, and balancing that, because like the reason I started this business was to make art and not to do marketing. So
Right,
that's
right.
definitely one of my biggest challenges. And I also think it's really hard, and maybe this has been exacerbated a lot by COVID, but just like both of them, being an entrepreneur and being an artist, are very like solitary activities. And like a lot of times I miss the collaboration that I had in school, or that I had in former jobs when I worked on a team. Just like being able to like bounce ideas off of people, or like discuss solutions together, um, or feedback on either my work or what I should be doing in my business. Like those are definitely some of the challenges that I face that I am still figuring out how to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And I think that's one of the key challenges, that like, you have to wear multiple hats,
Yeah.
and at the same time you want to be focusing on your core work. But what are some of the things that you're doing like to navigate those challenges? Do you have any tips for artists, or
Yeah.
what are
I
you
mean,
doing?
I have like created sort of a network for myself of different people that I go to when I need advice, um, or need feedback. So that really helped. And it's a mix of like friends. Like my best friend is she's she is also an artist, and a writer. So she helps me a lot with like I'll send her some designs and she'll give me feedback, or she's actually the person who names a lot of my pieces. Um, so my pieces are all named with an empowering message of self-love, um, because I just think jewelry is really a beautiful thing that you can like put on and like let your true self sparkle. That's what I say. And you can feel like beautiful and confident. Um, so that part of my um, business process is really important. So um, she's really awesome. And she also has some background in marketing and stuff herself too. So, we'll discuss like a lots of things, different things together. And then I have a couple of like groups that I'm in, that like I'm in a fashion group. So, and some of those people vary between like actually making their own product, and then some of them get it manufactured, and they're at varying stages of their business, so that's really helpful. Actually, the biggest advice that I always give anyone who's starting their own business is to just like find your group of cheerleaders. um, I because like you will need them so much. I mean, I think one of the one of the things that I got the confidence to do this from was just realizing that there were so many networks of particularly female entrepreneurs, and that they were so welcoming and supportive to me when I quit my job. And I had joined one of them um, like 15 days or something before I quit my job. And so I told them, I was like, oh, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice, like I'm quitting my job. And they were like, congratulations. And I was so surprised. I don't know, like, whether I expected people to be like, well, why are you doing that? Like, that's not smart. Like, you're giving up all of your security. And this is like, and maybe it was myself too, right? Like my self critic in my head. And when they wished me congratulations, I was so surprised by that. And so I think having that group of people who are there for you when you're like really struggling, and also there to remind you that you're doing an awesome job, is really, really important. And so I give that advice to anyone who's starting a business, and then especially to artists, like build that group who can like critique your work and, you know, give you feedback.
No, I could totally relate to that because I've been there. And that's another time to tell my story, but this isn't about me, but this is more about your journey. And yeah, I'm curious to know, like, I love the collaboration that you're doing with your friends, and some of the pieces, like you mentioned, are inspired by your friends. So like, tell us about maybe like a little process of how you design and how you make your work and how you're collaborating with your friends.
Yeah, well, I can, so generally my work is inspired by nature. So either drawings I do of nature, or photographs that I've taken of nature, or sometimes they're more like from memory, so they become like a little more abstract. Um, and that's just like pretty much, yeah, how it all comes. But in specifically in relationship to my friend, my most recent collection was inspired by her. It's called The Little Things, and I released it in the fall. And um, you know, we were chatting about COVID and how it's like changed the way we think about everything, and sort of what we appreciate, and also, you know, financial concerns. And she was like, you know, I think that you can come up with a collection that is just this like really sweet little simple designs that could, you know, be a little more casual, because, you know, a lot of us are living more casual lives right now and not getting dressed up like we used to. And you know, keeping like affordability in mind and stuff. And she's like, you know, I have some ideas for you. So she's like, I'm just gonna put together a quick sketch. So she like sent me a sketch of like some different designs, and then I took them, you know, and like made them into what they are now, and made them work for you know, my material and stuff. And um I sent them back to her after, and then she named all of them. And so they're all named, they're all like really simple names, and they're a lot of them are reminiscent of the four elements. So earth, air, wind, and fire. Earth, air, water, and fire. um, and just like the like to remind you of the simple beauties in life, and also, you know, the people that really matter. So I can show you some pieces if you want to see from the
Yeah, please show us what you have. And
yeah. So I also started adding some wood into my pieces. So this is the Freedom to Flourish. It's a little hard to see. It has like color in it. You can see the back.
yeah, that's beautiful. I could see the colors and
Yeah, it's
the
a little hard to
texture. Yeah, it's hard to see from the screen, but I could
see.
sort of definitely see the
So the wood
texture.
is laser cut. These are called the Dew at Dawn.
It's beautiful.
The wood is laser cut. All the titanium, though, is still hand cut by me. These are to match the Freedom to Flourish necklace. So again, they have like the cool back. I love
I love the
making these, like
back.
having the surprise backs to them. That's been really fun.
Can you wear it the other way around, or is that just like, is there one, or is that?
Not for the earrings, but this is my necklace that I made reversible.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I try to like paint a different pattern or a different color on each side. Yeah, I mean, the necklace you could wear the other way if you wanted to.
Oh, that's fun.
I just really I love like jackets or something, and they have like the cool print on the inside, and I don't know why that's so gratifying to me, because I'm like, nobody else sees this, but I love that.
Oh, I love that too, because
secret, pizzazz. So
yeah. It could be formal on the outside, but like inside, there's something fun going on.
Really funky. So I kind of like that. I mean, with the earrings are cool because you can see them also, like if you're wearing your hair up, you can still see it from behind. So yeah, I just like the little secret.
Yeah, I love that too. But for me, the earrings are challenging on the screen because like if you're wearing a headphone like this, you can't really see it, you know? So yeah, I think that's been my challenge so far, but I don't know.
It's
but I'm sure like something to think about. But yeah, let's talk about how you do it.
Yeah. Oh, you want to see the shirt?
Yeah. Because it's so beautiful.
I just dropped my cord from my computer, and if it unplugs, it might die on me. So.
Speaking of cords, right? And yeah, I love the idea that like you're using like something that's solid material, and like how you're turning into more fluid and a form that's reflecting nature. So I really love that aspect.
Yeah. So I've always been interested in dichotomies in my work, and in college I explored a lot sort of like masculine and feminine, and sort of like more masculine processes or materials, like with metal, and but doing a more feminine technique. So I used to do fiber techniques in metal. That was like my senior thesis. So I'm still, and also like bringing in a lot of like, my childhood of like doing sewing and stuff with my mom. So I used to spin steel wool into yarn and knit with it. And I used to weave like big, thick steel rods into these sort of like baskety forms. So I feel like that's carried through into Radiance and Romance by using titanium. So all the pieces are made, all the wood, all the metal parts, except for like the chains and the earring wires and stuff, is titanium. And that's like a sort of more, industrial. It's a very hard metal. But I love to like play around and make it look really fluid and delicate. And I've had people like have this really delicate earring. I've had people like at craft fairs be afraid to touch the pieces because they think that they're like gonna break them or something. I'm like, no, it's titanium. Like, it's so strong. And it's also cool because since it is titanium, it's like so lightweight. So it's kind of a weird thing too, because like it's really strong and really hard, but it doesn't really feel like substantial. It feels really light. And even sometimes like people are shocked when they pick it up about how light it is. Like, it feels like paper. Like, this weighs like a paper clip, a little over like what a paper clip weighs. So these earrings, these are like some of my favorite earrings designs, and they're so big, but I feel like I'm wearing paper. These weigh like 2 paper clips.
Wow.
So yeah, so light, but you can get like a lot of volume in them, which I love.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so they're all made from titanium, and it's called anodizing is what I do. So basically what happens is a thin oxide forms on the surface through heat. So I use electricity to create heat that interferes with light. So part of the light beams will reflect off the oxide, and part of the light beams penetrate the oxide to reflect off the metal. And so that's what gives it the color. There's no pigments or dyes involved at all. And I painted on, so I can show you my setup here. So here's my little rectifier. So the color is determined by the voltage. So basically a higher voltage creates a thicker oxide. So that creates a different color. So you can, once you go up to a higher voltage and get a thicker oxide, it won't change when you lower the voltage. So I start by painting a higher voltage, and I will maybe mask off areas or, decide what parts. So higher colors would be like the yellows and pinks. There's like a different purple that you can get at the top, and like a kind of silvery green. And then as you move down, it turns into like lighter blues, dark blues, and then dark purple. And then there's a very dark gold at the end, at the very low end of the spectrum. So I electrify my paintbrush. So I have all my different paintbrush shapes, and I like to experiment with like really pushing it to be like paint. So a lot of people will like just dip it into the I use water to carry the electricity. So a lot of people might like dip it in and they get like more of a gradient, or maybe they'll mask off part of it with like tape or something to like put a pattern on it, which I do use the tape sometimes to mask off and get like a very, you get like a harsher line that way, obviously. But I like to use a paintbrush because then I can like make texture and stuff like you would with paint. So these are my paintbrushes. So they all have copper wire running down them and then are covered in electrical tape. So that's why they look a little funky. So that's how you get the electricity. So the positive charge goes on the metal, and then the negative charge goes on the paintbrush. Yes, this is my knob. I can just like adjust the voltage. Here, I'll turn it down. You can see. So this piece is going to get a wooden piece on top like this. So it's like the one I'm wearing.
Beautiful.
This is new designs that aren't even officially launched yet.
So even better.
Yeah, so you got a little preview.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I just dip it in the water, and you can see there's no color. Can you see it turning? So this is like the goldish color it gets. And it will slowly, like as I paint more, so now I can see it's like turning a little bit purple.
Maybe a little closer. Is that? Oh, yeah, that's, yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah.
And it will sort of move up. So now it's like turning a little bit more blue.
Yeah, yeah. My God, it's amazing. It's just
It,
like turning like water into colors.
yeah, I call it magic because I think it is. And I think when I like do my videos, people don't really understand that it's like it's just water, and it's hard like to always like totally capture that. So yeah, so then it will go up to whatever the highest that I set here, you know, it will go up to that point. Um,
So the color is determined by the voltage,
the color
or
is determined by the voltage.
okay, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
So scientific.
I know.
So, yeah, but that's so amazing. Like, you know, turning like that water into color on a metal surface. I mean, that's that's the
Yeah,
science of it, right? So
yeah,
so
yeah.
how
Go ahead.
oh no, so how long does it take you? Well, first of all, like I'm just curious, like how long did it take you to master that skill? Because it must have taken a lot of trial and errors. Because I mean, you have to understand first of all the science behind it, but
Yeah.
it's just that how did you come across that technique?
So I took a class in college by one of my favorite professors called Color and Metal. So we learned all different kinds of ways to color metal, like patinaing. We did some techniques where we like drew with colored pencil on it. Like now I kind of forget. We like painted it or something and then drew like colored pencil on it. Um, and a lot of people ask me like because they're more familiar with the patina. So patina would be like what happens to bronze, you know, when it weathers and it turns out like green color. And there's other you can get like lots of different kinds of patinas depending on how you treat the metal. Copper, you can if you do like a heat patina on copper, you can get this like beautiful rainbow color if you've ever seen that. So there's a lot of that's like a bit more of like a common coloration of metal, but a patina is, I mean, patinas are beautiful, but they tend to change over time. um and so a lot the one of the questions I get, because people tend to be more familiar with patinas, are like, is the color going to change, is it going to fade? And I think one of the cool things about this process is that it doesn't really change. I have pieces that I made in that class that I still wear. You just have to give it like a nice little gentle cleaning, you know, because it's a reflection of light, right? So if the surface gets dirty or the oils on our fingers, so you just need like a little light cleaning and it's gorgeous again. So that's like a really cool thing about this process that I was really into when I took that class. So I learned how to do the painting on technique in that class, but it's taken me a little while to like really push it to where I have it now, where I can like make it look more like paint. I've like really experimented with like being able to see the brush strokes and like being able to paint like designs on it and stuff. Do I have like this one is cool. This one I painted with my fan brush. Um, can you see like the pattern on it?
Yeah, yeah. They're
So
very intricate. So yeah.
yeah, so like this, I love the fan brush because it gets like that, um, like it looks like this.
Oh.
I was experimenting. This is a new brush I got. So I was experimenting with this one. Yeah, so you can get like those different, like just like a painter would get, the way you can get the texture on with the different brushes. So that's taken me a little while, and that's like kind of unusual, I think, in the anodizing world, is to paint it on like I do it. This is one of my personal favorites. I was like really trying to make it look like watercolor.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, so I actually had somebody on Instagram recently who I was chatting with, and I was talking to them about the process, and they were like, I thought you were watercoloring on metal. And then I was so confused about how you were putting watercolor on metal. So so I think that's like the fun of it for me. And it brings back in like all of my foundational knowledge and art of like painting, because that was really what I did when I was younger. I didn't really go so much into sculpture outside of jewelry until I was in college. So just being able to like bring in that painting aspect, because that's just, I feel like, you know, that's a lot where like my foundations in art lie. Um, so all of those reasons were why I was like drawn to this particular technique.
No, that's amazing. I love the whole like aspect of how you learned over the years, and then I think it's a skill to master, and it's still ongoing. I don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna stop. But I think the beauty of this technique is that even the design, the shape may be the same, right? The shape of the
Yeah.
flower or like some kind of fluid forms are the same, but the color, the way you render the color, you, you're not gonna. The next piece is not gonna be the same
Yeah.
as the previous one because it's gonna vary, right? It's not you're not like replicating
Right.
exactly the same. I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it, and that's what nature is, right? Like
Yeah.
the form, it's never the same, even the
Even though it's like
snowflakes.
the same flower. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the snowflakes
Yeah.
have a different shapes, right?
Yeah.
They're not identical. So that's so really unique about your pieces. I think that's the
Yeah.
color. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I call them each like, you know, hand painted works of art, you know, unique hand painted works of art. So
No,
I
that's
think that's, yeah, I love that. And then I love, you know, I think every person is unique. So, you know, I think it's cool that you get to wear a piece of jewelry that's just as unique as you are.
No, I love that. I think that's the key messaging of that of your artwork. That's the what it conveys, right? The uniqueness of the individual who's wearing it, and or have some kind of deeper meaning to your pieces. Yeah. So what was the best advice you received as an artist, and what was the worst advice that you received?
Oh, the worst advice. Oh gosh, I don't know if I have the worst advice. I can tell you the best advice. um, I I would say the best advice was my jewelry teacher, the one who did the color and metal, who I took a lot of different classes with. She was amazing. Um, she would, in a critique, she would come up and the first thing she would do would be like turn our pieces over to the back, because she told us that the back was just as important as the front. And when I'm making work now, I always like think about like what would she say about this piece, like would she approve? And you know, I think she taught me like a lot about like craftsmanship and composition. um and I think it's all in the details. And I think I've taken this more into other aspects of my business too. And just the, you know, I don't want to just like sell something pretty, but it's like it's an experience, and it's a personal and intimate experience buying a piece of jewelry. And I want my customers to love it and to feel good about themselves in it. And you know, I think jewelry has this sort of magical quality in that it carries stories and love with it. And so it starts with like the love and care that I put into each piece. And then that's part of the story. And then it moves to the customer, and maybe the customer buys it for themselves and adds their own story and love to it. Or maybe they buy it and gift it to someone that they love. And then it carries that love forever in the piece. I know like the most valuable pieces of jewelry that I own are from my grandmother. Like she, you know, stuff that she wore and she's no longer living. Or pieces that my mom has gifted me. And it doesn't matter that they were probably not like actually that much money, but just like when I put those pieces on, like I just feel that love. And so um that whole story and part of jewelry is very much important to me. And when a customer like sends me a DM or sends me a photo of themselves in their jewelry, like it makes my day, because that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. um So I just think that it's all in the details. And I think it's also about like, I think jewelry versus like maybe say clothes or something else, it's something that you can pass on more easily. um it lasts longer than like maybe clothes. It's a little more archival. So I think like taking a lot of care too in how I make my work is important, because I want people to wear it for the rest of their lives and then to pass it down to their kids and stuff.
No, that was beautifully and well said. I mean, I love this aspect of like, creating a sentimental value, right? That's more long lasting than something that, a mass produced goods. I mean, we do have that, but but this is something more has a more meaning, and, it's also small enough that you could like, carry with you all the time,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even pass it on to the next generation.
yeah.
I really love that. And yeah, aside from like, yeah, let's not worry about the worst advice, but
Well, I was just thinking like I got a lot of like what you were talking about earlier about like jewelry not really being sort of like fine art. It was really mixed in college. I think that there were people who were more traditionalists in the art world, and then some people that were more progressive in their thinking. But I definitely got a lot of pushback from my not jewelry professors about um you know jewelry being like a craft and not being like art. um so I guess that would maybe be the worst advice, because I don't think that they're right. And I'm glad that I have been able to like keep up with the jewelry, because I just that yeah, that's who I am. It's funny actually too, because um in my metal professor, he was I took like steel and welding and that kind of stuff, and he was supportive of my jewelry. But like I would get critique. So everybody in the class knew that I was also a jeweler, and he would laugh at me because I would come to him with these like problems again about my my craftsmanship. So in the jewelry world, like you don't want plier marks, like you don't want to see the solder, like this is like ingrained into also a lot of the stuff in the jewelry world I was taught to do by hand versus machines. And in the metal sculpture world, that's those things are not always the case. Like they're not always so concerned, obviously, like about seeing the welding, the weld or something like that. Um, or you know, it's just they do more, they're doing stuff with machines. It's kind of a different world. I think there's a lot of like tradition in the jewelry world. So I would come to him with like problems being like, how do I hide the weld in this sculpture? And he would look at me and he'd be like, you can't. Like, and why are you asking me this question? But so everybody in my class knew that I was very much jeweler, and they would give me these critiques about my larger scale sculptures, and they would be like, and they would have no relationship to the body because they were not, supposed to be worn or anything. And they would tell me they looked like larger scale pieces of jewelry, which I thought was hilarious. So I was like, well, I guess I'm in the right field. So, yeah.
I love what you brought up, because that's always the challenge in the art world. Is like, I think people are so fixated on the one label, right? We want to just to be able to categorize people or compartmentalize people in certain boxes and categories. And a lot of times I think artists are very fluid, right? Like it's not just because they're not a master or something, it just kind of ties into a lot of different areas and different things. And that's where the challenge comes in. Like, how do I identify myself as an artist? And that goes back to the question of like, what is an artist, right? But that kind of differs from everyone else. And this is how you are actually defining what art can be and what art is. And I think you combine a lot of elements together and create, that's your artwork. I mean, it's who you are. It's not like you want to change because of the traditional set so, right? Like it's not that. And you're really combining the sculptural the painting aspect of things, and even also function, because I think a lot of times we tend to like, well, function is not really art, but it isn't an art form
Yeah.
like that we use every day, right, to express ourselves. So in that sense, I think that's the definition of art is. It's not like one word definition. It's just like creating something that's more meaningful for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
That's yeah. So just to end, I know we're almost running out of time, but I just want to ask this question. So, what does a success mean to you as an artist and as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Success to me is just being able to do what I love every day. um, I I was so glad that you asked this question because it made me think a lot about, also why I made this very drastic life choice. um, and I before I quit my full-time job to do this, I was in a job that I felt like was my dream job. I mean, I had worked so hard to get to this job. It was for my dream organization. And I was so excited when I got that job. And a couple months in, I was really miserable. And I stayed there for a year and a half. And I got to the point where I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, I felt like I would have these conversations with people, in the lunchroom or whatever. And I would, be like, oh, just 2 more days until the weekend, oh, it's almost Friday, and I was like, why are we living all these days just until Friday? Every week it would be the same thing. And I would do it too. And I was like, I what is this life? Like, so 5 days I'm in miserable and then 2 days I get to live. Like, that's not a week to me. And so was, I was just like, I don't want to wake up and be like, crap, I have to go to work today. Like, I don't want to think on Sunday nights, like, ugh, I have to go back to work. And I don't. And I work so much more than I used to. Like, I was very much like a 9 to 5 worker, and I would like schedule my yoga classes at like 5:30, 5:45, so that I like had to be out of the office by 5 o'clock. And I did not check emails after work. And I was like, had all this balance, which I don't have now. But I am so much happier. And I think it's just that I get to wake up, and even if I'm doing something that I don't like about my business, like, marketing, posting on Instagram, which I love sometimes and hate other times. But I don't care. I don't feel as miserable as I did when I was working in an office and doing like stuff that was just really not my passion. Because and anything that I do now, even if I don't like it, it's still like working towards my goal and my dream. And also a lot of days I get to make art. And so that for me is success.
No, I love that. Again, it's just that's how it is. Like, coming from, like everyone goes through that phase, right? Their career, and they don't feel fulfilled, even though, they could be financially well off, but at the same time, like, this is why people transition, right? Because they're not being fulfilled, and they're not fulfilling their life's mission, what they're here for. And I think also, yeah, like being able to do what you love every day, it doesn't feel like work, right? It just feels so
Yeah.
natural to you, and that's your thing, and that's a wonderful thing to have. And also in terms of just doing things that you don't love to do, but you do it because of one thing, right? Because you're so passionate about your work, the whole as like a bigger picture, right? So you are able to just like, yes, this is part of it, but it's not all of it. It's not
Yeah.
like who you are, but it's just a part of it. No one to be honest, like I don't like marketing either, but it's I don't think anyone does unless you're doing it for your
There's some people,
job.
right? And actually, full disclosure, that's what I was doing before.
Yeah, I mean, that was like core of my work too, but I wasn't like exactly identified, but that was a core work, and you know, I mean, I guess without any like purpose,
Yeah.
it gets mundane and it gets, you know, stale. So I think that's having that one mission and one purpose. I think that's the driving force for being an entrepreneur, right? That's what it is. So no, I'm really glad you're sharing that. I really love that. So really. So to close, what are your upcoming projects and what are you trying to achieve for 2021?
Yeah, so I'm excited to bring some of these new pieces. I'm experimenting with making the wood a little bit more lacy, and I have some other ones here. So they're hopefully launching soon. I'm working quickly on making a few more of them. I'm also really excited to
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Bring in some other new techniques. Hopefully also bracelets, like stud earrings instead of just the dangle ones. Yeah, maybe stones, maybe some stones. So just like bringing in some new techniques. Right now I just have necklaces and earrings, so I want to, you know, broaden my collection a bit more. I've had a lot of requests for bracelets, and a lot of people who've asked for the stud earrings. So doing that first, hopefully eventually down the line, rings too.
Yeah.
It's a little challenging with the titanium because you can't solder it. Or you have to be in a vacuum to solder it. Or you can weld it, but I just don't have the ability to weld in my apartment.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of a problem, you know, a good problem to have to figure out how to do some things that are not just like flat layers, and how to like add in, you know, other elements like make a bracelet or something like that. So they're all riveted right now. So the little dots there.
Oh yeah, those
The little silver.
I've seen those in the,
yeah. So they're all hand riveted right now.
Amazing. So how many of these necklaces and earrings do you make per series? Is there like a set quantity that you aim to make, or is that on demand? Or
there's not so much a set quantity. It's a bit about like how much I can make. I usually try to do around like 4 to 5 of each design at a time, and then I'll just like do different design releases as they sort of get sold out. And a little plug to my email list: if you sign up for my email list, you'll get access to shop them first. So I release them, you know, every few months, new pieces, and I give my email subscribers early access since they are individually one of a kind. But I do, like, if somebody says to me, oh, you know, that piece got sold and I really loved like the way you painted it, or I really love those colors, like I'll definitely, you know, it won't be exactly the same, but I'll make something similar to that. But yeah, each one is totally different. So on the website I saw like it's the whatever's photographed is what you're receiving.
Got it. I love that. I can't wait to get my bracelet.
Yeah.
Super excited. I know I will love to. I was hoping to share, but I know the timing. But
I
can't remember. No worries. No worries. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out offline. But I can't wait. And lastly, before we disconnect, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is just at Radiance Romance. or my email is Lauren at Radiance and Romance, or my website is just www.radianceandromance.com.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for
Yeah,
sharing
thanks
your
for having
insights and
me.
your journey with everyone here and the process. Like the process is so amazing. So yeah, well, like I said, I look forward to yeah, getting my own bracelet and yeah, continuing the conversation soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
Thank you.